folks, welcome to another episode of Borderline Uncomfortable. I'm Diamond.
And I'm Christian.
And this is a place where it's okay to know nothing but philosophize about everything. So quickly, I want to do a check-in. Do you have anything that you want to say? Quick check-in. Didn't I say I was going to do a check-in, though?
I know. And then the moment it comes, I'm like, say something. And then I blank.
No, but you don't have to. That's like, I have something that I want to say, but you don't have to.
Nope. We got nothing this week. What about you?
All right. Easy enough. I have something I want to say. So last episode was really difficult for me. I talked about my mom and the relationship. Well, I talked about my parents, specifically my mom and our relationships and some of the issues that we have with communication. So CJ and I shot the episode Monday or Tuesday, whenever it was. And then, actually the week before I was supposed to tell her the subject matter, but I kept delaying it because I was so afraid. So the day, I would probably say, I think it was maybe Thursday, that I had a conversation with her and said, hey, just so you know, this is what we're talking about in the newest episode. And I just wanted to give her a little bit of a warning. So just in case she saw it, she wasn't shocked by it or, offended, anything. And so that conversation for me was incredibly difficult. But it ended up working out really well because she was very receptive. First of all, she listened, which is not abnormal, but she just listened, which I appreciated. And she actually, I wrote down what I wanted to say. So there are a couple things that I have here. She opened up in that conversation and thereafter, even up to now, I've noticed that she's been spending more time with me. And when we do have conversations, they're not so guarded on her end, which I really appreciate, of course. And she's been making a lot more of an effort. I also think because I was in a weird place mentally, I was putting a lot of pressure, unnecessary pressure on the conversation that I wanted to have with her. So I say that to say, whenever you're preparing yourself to have a conversation, a very vulnerable conversation, this won't always happen, but try to make it so that you are in the best place mentally to have it. Because if not, you might do exactly what I did and just make shit up in your head that probably would never happen. And it might make it a little bit more difficult for you to have that conversation, unnecessarily so. And then my mom said after we had the conversation, she was like, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said something like, I know how you get, and sometimes your faces tell it all. And she said, oftentimes it's not me, it's you. And I was like,
got him.
Okay. And also no, because I do the same thing because I get that from you. So don't do that, because we're not going to go down this rabbit hole too much, but she often gives side eyes, don't mess with me. I don't want to hear it. Come correct. And I do the same thing. So don't sit here and tell me that, oh, it's you. No, girl. No, it's you. It's us. We got to do better together. But I want to say all that to say, have these conversations because you don't know what may come out of it. They're difficult, but if you make an effort, you might see the change might not be immediate. It may be gradual, which you can work with, and it's better than you not saying anything and never never conveying your feelings and then always feeling a certain way towards someone when it doesn't have to be that way. So that's my check-in.
That's great. I'm so happy that you and your mom are finally getting somewhere with that.
Sure.
It's been a long time coming.
It sure has. It sure has. But
No, but I think you were right though. We shouldn't be having conversations for people. I do that a lot too. I'll think of what the other person's gonna say, and I'm like, oh, this is not a conversation worth having because this person's just gonna react like this. But you really don't know. People will surprise you. On
my note, I said last week, we were talking about parenting, our last episode rather. And I said for the parents to give your kids more credit. And then on my note, I said, children need to give their parents more credit. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, sure does.
All right. So this week's episode, we'll be talking about toxic relationships, specifically relationships like intimate relationships, because toxic relationships come in all different forms. And we have a special guest, Tatiana Jonas.
Yes.
This is someone that I know from one of my old jobs. We actually connected, and she's a really cool human. So we're very excited to have her on today's episode.
Yeah, it's our first guest. So it should be fun having someone else jump in and take over for us so we don't have to do all the work.
Well, she's not going to take over, but, she going to give her opinion and we're going to give ours and see what happens. No, but I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a good conversation. And I'm excited too, actually. Oh, yeah. CJ got me a new mug. So, from the first episode how souped I was for the mug that he made of me, unbeknownst to me. And then he made me this one, which on this side says do better, which is something that I often say with my beautiful face right here. And then on the other side, it says, what do you want? But where did you get the what do you want? Do I say that often or do you say that?
No, that's me saying, what do you want?
Oh, yes.
Why are you calling me?
Oh, the no love that I get from this man.
Hey, I just have a very cold way of showing it.
Very cold. But anyway,
so
no, I'm kidding.
Segueing into toxic relationships. So today we're going to talk about those relationships that you either need to work on or you need to leave. And toxic relationships, I mean, there are a lot of relationships that have unhealthy behavior in them. They're not necessarily toxic. They just need both parties to pay attention to those issues and figure it out. But we see people in trouble. Timon, when's the last time you had like a serious relationship?
Why you gotta put my business out there?
I'll put mine out there first. For me, it was 2011.
So the last time I had a serious relationship I'm going to say it was my high school boyfriend. And that was 10 years ago, over 10 years ago now. But I will say that I've been in different types of relationships. I guess you would call like millennial style relationships where there was everything but the title, which is so absurd to me, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I've had some toxic situationships for sure, for certain.
Situationships.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
There's actually a Snow Allegra. She has a song called Situationships. But yeah, I've had several of toxic, unhealthy, weird situationships.
Yeah, and we're going to jump in with Tatiana and get her take on this whole thing. So let's go.
Hey folks, now we are here with Tatiana Jonas. So she has a new podcast, Fempower Podcast, and is it at Fempower Podcast?
Yeah. So on IG is at Fempower Podcast. If you're going to email us anything, fempowerpodcast@gmail.com. And it's me and two lovely hosts, and it's pretty cool. We talk about women related issues mostly. So we're all jokes all the time though.
So congrats on your new podcast, and I'll have to check that one out because I was definitely still listening to the other one.
Yeah, I mean, I still like the other one. I thought it was pretty cool, man. I think just being single in New York, it's the funniest thing ever. You meet the weirdest people. I mean, I go out pretty much every weekend, and the streets, man, the streets are dirty.
I know that life. Okay, that's a whole nother conversation. Right now, we talk about toxicity, toxic relationships. That's a whole nother conversation. So let's get into it. So I guess we can start with a little bit. I don't know how personal you're willing to get, but I want to ask you.
I'm an open book.
Okay. So I want to ask you, have you ever been in a toxic relationship? If so, how did it look?
All right, so just a little backstory. Every dude I've dated up until the last one has been pretty much like me. I'm pretty laid back. I don't like to talk a lot. Even though I do the podcast, when I say I don't like to talk a lot, is I don't want to just be talking to talk. Like, if we joke and laughing, that's cool. But just to talk to be annoying is just annoying to me. And then the most dudes I date, they're from Brooklyn. They're quiet and low key people, right? Cool. So I went to school and I met somebody, right? And then the person happened to live in Brooklyn as well. And then the person and I started dating. And the person was totally opposite from any guy I've ever dated. And I thought that was pretty exciting. Not realizing that, girl, you should have just stayed in your lane. So I didn't realize I was in a toxic relationship until like towards the end. And the reason why I say that is I'm not an expressive person. I don't really talk about my feelings too much. And I pretty much think that's normal. Like, you talk about your feelings when you need to talk about it. I don't think every little thing that happens at every moment you need to talk about. And I didn't realize that, I guess for lack of a better word, that some people need to talk about every emotion they have at every moment. And okay, but your delivery, how you say things. And I started realizing little things like outbursts towards his mom and his different people in his family. And one thing that sat with me is, if you talk to your mom like that, that means you can talk to me like that. And that's just not gonna happen, beloved. And when you don't live with the person, it's easier to get away, right? Because when it's easier to get away from the situation, you just think, oh, maybe you guys are just cooped up for too long. Right. But when you do live with the person, you can't get away. And it got more and more apparent that this is just how the person is. And I was doing a lot and the person just wasn't doing a lot. I was going back and forth to Brooklyn from PA because we were living in PA at one point together. And he wouldn't do that. Out of the 4 years we were together, he only worked about 3 months. And that was an issue. And he didn't see anything wrong with that. That I'm just like, yo, that's not going to work for me, you know? And when you're not living with somebody, you don't share expenses. So you're like, that's a you problem, B. That's not a me problem. But then when you live with somebody and you share expenses, it like that seriously hinders the relationship. And you don't realize how you could just even lose like a sexual appetite for the person, which also causes another problem, you know? So it was just problems on top of problems. And it was the delivery of how to handle it. The easiest way to handle was getting a motherfucking job, you know? Because then we wouldn't have to talk a lot, probably have more sex, you know, shit like that. But that's not what the person chose to do. The person just chose to continue to be who they were. And we just kept arguing about little things because I worked from home. So I worked from home even before the pandemic started. So if I'm at home, you're at home, ain't nobody ever getting a break. Mm-hmm. Little things turn into big things, how you handled it. I'm not an argumentative person. I'm not a I don't like to argue about things. If you do something a certain way, I will try to find a work around so I don't kind of get in your way, because clearly you're a person too. I got to respect that, but it just didn't work out. I would say what made it toxic, what made it toxic would be the emotional arguments, how the person speaks to you when you're like having a discussion, because you don't have to really have arguments in a relationship. It could literally be a discussion, like, yo babe, I don't like when you did that, and then be like, all right, like, you know, can you just do this a different way, or can you meet me halfway, let's compromise. And let's be honest, it's not gonna always go that way. Sometimes it could be a big like, yo, why the fuck would you do that, right? But then you could calm down and say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. There was never a sorry in sight. One specific reason why I'll say it was toxic, he didn't like me going out with my friends. When we were living in New York City, I would go out after work on Fridays. And then he would be like, oh, you work Monday through Friday. The weekends are supposed to be our time and you going out on Friday. Like, when am I supposed to hang out with you? And I'm like, yo, but I work Monday through Friday. You're right. Friday's a work day. So I'm going out. You're right. And he would then, like, when I would get home from work, he would do like little things to kind of like show that he ain't pressed, but he clearly is pressed about it.
Mm-hmm.
And or he would want to go out
Mm-hmm.
after I already just went out, and I'm tired because I work Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a constant thing every time I wanted to go out with my friends. So he kind of wanted to seclude me, or like take me away from my friends, so I wouldn't have any kind of communication with those people. I could be on the phone with them, be like, why are you on the phone with them? I want to talk to you. Have nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. He could call me. I'd be like, I'm gonna call you back. I'm on the phone with oh, you gonna hang up with me? I'm your man. That's toxic as fuck, because you feel like you can't continue your regular social life. And then moving to PA, all my family's in New York. Me even going to New York without him would be a problem, because he like, what am I supposed to do? You came out your mother's, I came out my mother's. So, like, toxic. Toxic.
Yeah, I think right.
We got isolation, codependency.
Yes.
And what excuses did he give you for not working all the time?
Oh my gosh. So the first year, right? So the first year of our relationship, I've never been dependent on anybody. I've had a job since I was 16. So that's a you thing. That's not a me thing, right? So he said he told his mom he wanted to take a year off before finding a job, right? And he was taking like those government tests. So then the second year, I started getting annoyed, and I was like, "Yo, you got to make something happen. You got to bust a move, kid." And then the third year, my living situation wasn't what I wanted it to be. I was trying to get an apartment. He was actually moving out of New York City. He asked me to live with him, and I said, "Well, these are the things that I need to see happen." Said, "You need to get a job. You need to do this, because if we're gonna be living together, that's two different things. We can't continue how things were going." So he's like, "Yes, I'm gonna do all those things, right?" We get to PA. By January, he finds a job. And let me tell you something. So all the women out there, it's never an issue finding the job. So don't let anybody ever tell you I can't find a job. I don't even care if it's motherfucking McDonald's. It's never an issue finding a job for people. The issue is keeping a job, because people don't have discipline. Some people don't have the discipline to get up every day and do what they got to do, even when it's boring, even when it's not fun, even when you feel like you're being degraded. Because there's people out there think that just because they have a little bachelor's that, they shouldn't do certain jobs, or just because they have a little master's that, they can't do certain jobs. People don't want to work up the ladder, and that's a personal problem. But for people like that, you need to stay by yourself. So he got a little job, whatever. It was a good federal job, and he complained every day. So one day he called me. He's like, "I'm about to quit." I'm like, "You can't quit. Like, you think I want to go from Brooklyn to PA every day? I don't want to do that, but I do it because I need to have a job and we need to eat." 3 months at the job, quit, just like that, because he didn't like the way people was talking to him. And then after that, it was, I'm looking. You don't think I'm looking? You're applying to jobs like managerial jobs, and you don't got the experience, kid. You don't got the experience. So after he left that first job that he got within our relationship, I started in my mind, it was over. I just started saving my money heavy. And it took me a year after that point to just really be out, because women don't usually leave right away. Like it takes time. Like in their mind, they already made a decision, but it still takes time to get to that point. So I had to figure my life out first. And then like so much happened within that year that it took time.
Yeah. So I always think relationships are an interesting period, but then I always think relationships with people like you, strong-minded people, strong-willed people, and then someone who is the opposite of that. I always wonder like how you stay. So
Yes.
You not had to, but maybe you saw some signs and ignored, or like what was it that made you stay for so long? What were the signs that you saw, like some early signs, and like and why did you stay for 4 years?
So in the beginning, you don't realize the signs. That's what I'll say, because I know I'm not an emotional person. Like if you let him tell it, I'm heartless. I'm not sitting here crying. I'm not sitting here talking a lot. I said what I said and I moved on. I'm not gonna I just don't do things like that. So for me, I always figured like, yo, like maybe he's teaching you something that you never had within yourself, like how to show emotion. But then I realized that that's not even the right way to show emotion, but it took me time to realize that, you know? And even when I said, I think we should go to counseling, he was against it. So I was like, you're not even trying to go to counseling, kid? Yeah, this is definitely not going to work. So, because when I started realizing the signs, that's when I said that. And then I think this is the main reason why women stay. You stay because you see the potential. Like he's so smart. He's a great person. He's just not a great relationship person. But I love to laugh. I love to laugh. So much so where he loves to laugh too, and we always joking. That's another reason why I'd say we're always joking. We could just get into an argument right now, big blowout. 10 minutes later, we're laughing. Kiki. And that's one thing I always did appreciate. But to come to think about it, no other relationship I've ever been in, I'd have arguments with my partners. Never. I've never been in a relationship where I had huge arguments. It would more be like, babe, I didn't like when you do this. Why would you do that? Or through text messages, like, come on, are you really serious right now? And then that's it. That's the most heated it would get. It was really only with him that it would be screaming matches. So you stay because of the potential. You stay because you don't know any better, I guess. Like when I was younger, my mom and my stepfather would argue all the time. So I'm like, oh, maybe this is, you know, normal. My sister and her husband used to have screaming matches. So you don't know any better. But I know myself even better now. I've never been like that. I never want to be like that. And I'm never going to be like that again. When I left my ex, I told him I don't believe in marriage anymore. But now I realize I just didn't want to be married to him or have children with him. But I do want to get married and have children. Just it wasn't going to be with him.
Did you in a lot of aspects of your life, did you see yourself becoming very negative and cynical as a result of that relationship?
No, I've always been a cynical person. Not negative. I'm always, you can ask Diamond. I'm always a happy, upbeat person, always. But I'm cynical because I'm realistic. You know, shit don't always work out. Sometimes you gotta take a L, and that's just life. I do think there are certain people in life that will change how you think, maybe for a moment in time or for a long time. But everybody won't change your view. Majority of the people you will think ain't shit. But there will be one or two people that comes along, and that's when you are in a relationship that makes you change your view.
Did your friends or family ever say anything about your relationship?
They sure did. Sure did. My mom hated him the moment she met him. Yeah, from the moment but my mom also doesn't like anybody. So most people like in my family, they liked him because of his personality. Like I said, he's a fun, lovable dude, you know? He's a fun, lovable dude. But as far as a partner, knowing everything that I went through, no, they didn't like him. And my mom would say all the time, like, when are you going to leave him? And that's another thing too. And I don't know if you guys have heard this, whatever. You can't tell somebody when to leave a relationship. Sure. You can only leave a relationship when you're ready. So, because when you're with somebody for that long, there's certain things that pull on your heartstrings. You're like, damn, you know. And you also, when you're in a toxic relationship, just having that discussion is a really touchy discussion, because them 2 weeks before I left, man, I couldn't sleep because it was an argument like every day, every night, an argument, because I'm done arguing. I don't have anything left in me. I'm leaving. But, you know, he needs to talk about it. But if it's a friend, when it's a friend, you can't tell grown folks what to do. You have to listen to them and let them come to their own decision. Because even my friend, one of my closest friends, when I was still with my ex, and, you know, she's listening to all the things that I'm telling her, she said, I would never tell you to leave. That's a decision you have to make on your own. But as a friend, you know, I'm going to listen to you, you know, hear you out, hear what your decision is, but I can't tell you what to do. And that's the right thing to do. You should never tell a friend when to leave a relationship, because a friend could drop you like a hot potato and say you the one that that was fucked up. You know, especially if you're trying to keep that relationship. Now, I'll say I've had friends that are in toxic relationships that they ask me for my advice and they don't take my advice on a plenty of occasions. And what I do is just distance myself from those friends, because what we're not going to do is have the same conversation daily and you not busting a move. Because even my friend said that. So there was the first time I was going to leave my ex and I told her, yeah, I'm leaving, and I didn't leave. You know what she told me? She said, look, don't do that again. If you're not ready to leave or you're not on the highway, don't tell me nothing. And I had to respect that because I'm that friend too.
That's yes and no for me. I want to say yes, bitch. I say the same thing, but it's I'm thinking of my one friend in particular who did exactly that, where she would, and I do that actually quite often, but talk about my friend. She complains often about the same problems in her relationship, and I listen and I tell her my advice, normally solicited advice, but I do tell her to leave when I feel necessary, right? Now you're saying you wouldn't do that because your friend can leave you, like your friend can drop you. But my take on that is, if we're friends and we're truly friends and you're seeking my opinion, my advice, and you leave, if you feel like you need to remove yourself from that relationship because you probably hear some truth in that advice and you're not feeling it, then fucking bye. Like,
well, I understand that. Yeah, I understand that part. I agree with you. And the reason why I don't ever tell anybody to leave anybody is because I just don't do shit like that. But I agree with you. If we're really friends, like you say we friends, and I'm telling you something that could really be beneficial to you, and I could see in the long run how you're gonna flourish from that advice, right, of giving him, and you don't, and I tell you that, and then you don't want to be friends with me no more, I'm all the way good, girl, because you toxic too. Right. But for me, I'm just never gonna do that because I just don't want to. Personally, I just don't want to. Like, okay. Now that you said that, Diamond, say if you come to me and you tell me about a relationship, I would tell you, leave him, girl. Leave him. But you never know what type of friend you have until after you say that shit. Sure. That's the problem. So that's why I just don't, that ain't my place.
You know, it's funny because my mom has told me before that she gave me that same exact advice.
Yeah, my mom told me that. That's why I don't do it.
Right. The same exact advice. She was like, don't really get into people's business like that. Don't give like the minimum when it comes to advice, because people are going to do what they want to do, and they're not going to leave situations or make those moves until they deem necessary. But I truly feel like I couldn't do that. I'm not going to sit here and half-ass give you advice. If I feel like you should leave a nigga, you want me to help you pack? Do you want me to come pick you up?
I'm so good for that. I'm good for keeping an opinion to myself. Reason being is because I don't like to over extend myself to people that won't receive it. Sure. And you have to know what friends you have. There are friends that will receive information well, and there are friends that just don't receive it well.
And I agree with you there. It does depend on the friend. But that, what you just said, made me think of another question for you. If you're in a friendship that's toxic, right? But say, for example, you have a friend, you've been friends since elementary school, right? And this is your dearest friend, your oldest friend, all these things. And that person is a toxic person, but you feel obligated, or maybe not obligated is the word, but for some reason, you don't want to leave that friendship, although you know it's not healthy or beneficial to you, right? How do you do, like, have you been in that situation? How would you remove yourself from that situation?
So what I do is I have a famous line. You show me who you are and I move accordingly. I move accordingly with everybody. You act funny, you toxic, you say something I don't like and I tell you I don't like and you do it again, I move accordingly. If I tell you my business, you spit that right back in my face, I move accordingly. It's not to just say I'm cutting you off, we never be friends again. Nah, I'm real good for being a surface friend. Real good for being a surface friend. We can have a whole night out and it's only thing we talk about is surface shit. So I think the problem with people is, and I think I posted this the other day, where people say, oh my gosh, you have such a big heart. And it's not that you have a big heart. You don't create boundaries for yourself. You have to create boundaries for yourself with everybody. Family, boyfriend, girlfriend, friendships. I don't care who it is, coworkers. You have to create boundaries for yourself, because not creating boundaries for yourself, it lands you in situations that you don't want to be in. Now you're out here looking stupid and stuck. You know, and don't get me wrong, don't think that I'm perfect all the time where, you know, I'm not out here like, damn, I'll really let this bitch play me. Yes, I do get to situations like that, but then you know what I do? I readjust those boundaries. I think that's just what it is. It comes down to boundaries. You have to create boundaries. When you have a friendship that's toxic, you limit your conversation with that person. You check up on that person every 6 months to make sure they're still alive.
Yeah. I also would, for the most part, I will set my boundaries, but there's also a level of transparency that I like to give and do, which I think is where we differ. Because if I am, let's say, for example, I'm talking to someone and we went on a date and it didn't work out. How would you progress if that person reached out and was like, hey, I really enjoyed the time, blah, blah, blah. How would you respond?
Wouldn't.
See, so for me, I would be like, hey, I enjoyed the time too, but I would say however I felt, you know, in a gentle way. And that's because I don't like to be ignored either. And I like that level of transparency. And I wouldn't do that to someone because I'm like, I would want them to tell me.
But you know what? You got to respect the block. You got to respect.
Sure.
That's the problem. But okay, I'm also a toxic person. I'm pretty toxic. Let me tell you some shit. Mm-hmm. So in a situation like that, if I'm like, yo, if I'm bored and you text me while I'm bored, I'm texting back. If I'm not bored and I'm out, I'm ignoring you.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I wouldn't say anything, and I know it, like, there are points where I think about myself and I'm just like, why you're like this? You know, why can't you just be honest? Why can't you communicate? Because you don't want people doing it to you, but it's just like, take a hint. That's what I want to say sometimes. But
if somebody does it to me, I got the hint. Like, cool, we good. No hard feelings.
No, I get that too, but I personally don't like it. If someone doesn't text me back, that obviously means that they're not interested. I'm not going to respond because I'm not going to embarrass myself and I'm not going to put any more energy towards that, right? But my preference is to have a conversation, then move on.
Yeah, I'm not a great communicator. I'm not having any conversation. That's why I'm toxic. I know. I'm honest with myself.
That's the first step to recovery.
I don't plan on recovering, but I'm honest with myself.
That's a question that I asked Diamond a long time ago. What are some things, like, if you were to start a serious relationship with somebody, what would be something you'd say, hey, this is wrong, this is what's wrong with me, but I'm not going to change? And I guess that's your thing.
But you know what? Okay, I could say that to you guys. If I said that to him, I'll definitely change for him.
Aww.
Excuse the fuck out of me. You change for who?
A person. That's another conversation for another day.
Yes.
But I think when you find someone that you really, really like, that change, or that the desire, the drive to change comes easily.
It comes easily. When you find somebody that you really like, the desire to just be the best person you could be for that person is like, it's everything, because you want to make that person happy forever. So,
okay, I want to go back to your last relationship then. Do you think that your ex-partner loved you in the way, like, I don't understand, because and we all can agree that if you find someone who you are in love with and you want to change for them, you'll change. So then how come you think that person didn't change? Was it just the laziness, or like, did you think what was it? He
wanted to be who he was, and that's all he was going to be. He didn't want to change. He didn't. When I used to say, get a job at McDonald's. I don't care where you get a job. You're like, I'm not doing that. And I'm just like, well, if you love me, and at one point I had broke my leg. So I had to work while still being in the hospital. That's how much we just didn't have it. And I felt like at that point, McDonald's should have been a motherfucking option. Mm. You see what I'm saying? Wow. So if you love me enough, you would have done that.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the signs of a toxic relationship, is when your partner's not really to work on themselves for you, and then they say they love you, or they'll maybe once in a while do something nice to try to keep you in their grasp. Yes. But in reality, it's not really that they're in love with you, or they really it's more of an attachment. You know, they need you. They need that companionship.
Codependency.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any advice, like what kind of steps you would take to sort of start backing out of this of a toxic relationship? You said set up boundaries.
Yeah, definitely set up boundaries. And if you were doing the screaming matches with that person before, definitely cut that out now. If you realize it's a toxic relationship, nothing's going to change by really going back and forth with that person. Now, there are some times where it's unavoidable. I get that. But you got to catch yourself. Because sometimes you will be going back and forth and I'll catch myself. I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'll be like, oh, now you don't want to talk about it. Like, I'm just not going to talk about it. I'm just not. Because I want to still go to sleep happy. And then you don't realize, you start doing little things that, this is how I knew this was not it. I was drinking a bottle a weekend. That I was drinking excessively. Then I started smoking. I was smoking 3-4 times a day, right? And then it would be like we'd have an argument. I'd be like, I'm going outside to smoke. I would sleep, smoke, sleep, smoke, sleep, smoke. That's how bad it was. So you have to also watch your behavior. And if your behavior is changing so drastically where you don't even recognize yourself anymore, you gotta take a hint. You gotta take a hint. Mm-hmm. So if you're living with that person, you have to move out. It's going to be hard to move out with a toxic person, but the moment you make that decision, you better move out the next day so you don't change your mind. If you're not living with that person, you just have to break up with them over the phone. Don't do it in person. They might try to come to your house. They might try to come to your job. And, you have to be strong enough. It's one of those things where you gotta grow a pair and make it happen. And sometimes it's not easy because you do love the person, or sometimes some people are scared of the person.
Sure. I think that's it too. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you safely get out of that when it's a situation like that?
It's how you, especially when you're living with that person. That's why I said, if you plan on breaking up with that person, that same night, you got to get out of there. I would hope you have a car or a family member that can come and get you. Right. And if you got to leave some shit. My sister came and got me.
Okay, so you had a support system.
Yeah, I have and that's one thing I'll say. I have a really great support system. Like, my family it's always been everything. And that was what was rough for me when I did move to PA, is because I'm very close to my family. So when it was like arguments about going to see my family, that was it for me. That was just not going to work for me at all, Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And then some people don't have a great support system. And that's why, friends are important.
Yeah. That raises a good point, because folks will stay in a toxic relationship because they don't have that support. They don't have family or friends, and they become dependent on that person, and then that's all they know. We don't know their history. So I think there's a lot that goes into it. And it's unfortunate that not all the time folks know that they're in these toxic relationships, because that's all they're used to.
I didn't, and again, like I said, this is the first time I've been in a toxic relationship, very first time. So I didn't know the signs of a toxic relationship. It wasn't until like I'm just looking at shit and I'm like, this is not right. This is not how things are supposed to go. And I started piecing it together. And I'm not the type of person that talks about my relationship to other people. So I could be in a relationship and yeah, he cool, whatever. I always say this joke to my friend, like, oh, how's your boo doing? I'm like, he cool or whatever, And then the person starts laughing. But I never really go into detail about anything. I don't have anything to say because that's my relationship. But it got so heavy to a point like where I couldn't even keep it to myself. And I started talking to my friend about it. And then she was like, yeah, girl, that's not right. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started piecing things together, because I've never really been in a relationship like that. I'm a laid back person. I'm really chill. Like, I'm mad cool. I don't like to argue. So for me, it wasn't something I was used to.
Well, that's scary for me because I don't want to fall into that. I was saying the other day, like, how do I know? Have you
been in a toxic relationship, CJ?
I haven't. And I haven't been in a relationship in like over 10 years. So, yeah. So sometimes I see people who, I see them being strong people, and then they end up in a relationship like that. And I'm thinking, well, shit, that could happen to me, because I know all these things. And I see all the signs when they're happening to other people. And I'm like, what if I fall into what if I'm the toxic person?
It's funny that she said that it could be a strong person. because I beat myself up every day, even still to this day. Like, how could you let this happen to yourself? Like, what the fuck were you thinking? All the signs were right there in front of you, Tati. Like, flag after red flag after red flag. Like, why didn't you figure it out yourself? Why did you waste 4 years on somebody that you shouldn't have wasted 4 years on? Still to this day, I beat myself up about it. I feel like horrible and terrible about it. But then I then have a next thought, like, you had to go through this to become this, like, to be where you are now, you know? So everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer in that. And I'm not gonna, I just won't let that happen to me again.
Mm-hmm. Good.
What are some signs of a healthy relationship? Oh, no. Let me ask you this. Because I was just talking to CJ about this. What are some signs of a healthy relationship that you may mistake for unhealthy or toxic? Does that make sense?
I don't know. Well, answer the question first, because I really don't know.
So something that I hate is people texting me every morning, right? And trying to, or every day, just trying to see how my day was. And
I hate that too. I hate that too.
And it's like a nice thing to do, I guess, to check in on people, blah, blah, blah. But I'm always just like, okay, this person's going to be really clingy, or this person doesn't have their own things going on, or whatever. That's just how it runs through my head. And it's bad to like think so negatively. And I want to be more on board with like, hey, thanks for reaching out. But I don't know. I don't kind of know where to fall. I guess it's finding that balance. Like, let's talk maybe twice a week.
So boundaries. Yeah. So what I do is I just start ignoring them a couple times a week.
Okay, but then and then I would ignore people too.
Diamond, do not look at me like that. I just gotta do what I gotta do. My safety is way more important than you texting me what you doing.
Okay, here, and I literally told TJ this. Go ahead.
I would ignore people too, and then they'd stop texting me altogether. And then I get to a point where I'm saying, oh, nobody's ever interested in me for long. And that's because I don't respond or I don't engage with them. And I'm blaming it on them for not being interested. I don't know. It's just.
Or.
Sure, we gotta talk about it.
Or, don't do me. I think it would be the healthiest and the most adult-like if you just said to that person, hey, it's not necessary to text me every day. I don't have so much going on, but I don't like to engage as much as maybe you do. So let's keep it to a minimum. Or whatever language you want to use.
So I said that. I said that to this guy yesterday. I told him, first I asked him, I did the whole, hey, what are you looking for type of thing, right? And I told him I'm not the type of person who reaches out, or I don't make a lot of effort to socialize. I like to be in my own little world. So I don't communicate all the time. And because he was also apologizing when he wasn't responding right away. Like if I texted him something, he had a delayed response, he would say, I'm sorry. And I had to tell him, like, it's cool. I don't care. Like, you could respond today, tomorrow, next week. And, but I told him, I was like, yeah, I'm not the type of person to socialize. I don't know if you're looking for something more than just very casual, whatever, maybe I'm not the one. And he said, no, I get it. He said, thank you for being honest. It's cool.
There you go.
I'm cool with that. Right. So I'm like, okay, cool. Not even the next day, just later. It's like, so what are you doing? I'm like, oh my God.
But then you know that's not the type of person that you need in your life. Okay, so now we can move on. Now you don't owe that person any more.
Now I block and delete.
Right. This is the point to do it. But I just feel like be upfront. I don't like it again, so I wouldn't do it. But I think it always works best when you're just honest. And if it doesn't work, then you know.
No, and I do agree with that. It's just that I agree with that. It's just that I have this I don't know if it's this fear of confrontation or fear of hurting someone's feelings. And I think that's what gets people into toxic relationships too, is because you're afraid to say no. It feels easier to say yes. And then you keep saying yes. And then you're in it. And if you would have just said no from the beginning, yeah.
I do that too. Sometimes it's a fear of saying no. I don't have a problem with that no more. It's a no. But I do get that. I don't like to hurt somebody's feelings. That's why I don't tell them things. Now, I gotta tell you, don't text me all day. Why don't you
Yeah.
got to do for you not to text me all day?
But don't you think you would be hurting their feelings more if you just blatantly ignore them after you know that they like you? That would hurt my feelings more. I think.
No, I said I'm in a meeting. I'm gonna text you back. I'm not. Let me tell you something. I tell a couple people the other day I'm in a meeting. I'm in a meeting. And you know what I'm doing? Leg up, watching my show on my phone.
You know what? Now they're gonna know,
right?
I'm still in the meeting. Who's gonna? What you going? I'm not gonna answer. So I'm in a meeting.
I get it, but I
don't like to talk about those kind of things because okay. Let's just say it's not somebody that you're dating. What if it's like a friend or a family member that constantly wants to talk, like every day? No, we're not doing that, B. No.
My mom has a friend that she's known for over 20 years. And she had tried to get away from her when she left the job because that's where they met. And she even changed her cell phone number. And the friend called her new job to find her.
Wow.
And this lady calls her every day, talk for hours on end. And she has nothing going on in her life, so there's nothing new. And my mom doesn't know how to tell her that she can't do that anymore.
Don't pick up the phone.
So she's stuck. But she will call again constantly.
Then okay, so then you block her. See, well, your mom is different. So
my mom's the type of person who can't say no.
Right.
Now she's stuck in this toxic friendship because she doesn't know how to say no.
That's so intrusive.
Yeah.
That's so intrusive.
Because that person, yeah.
But you know what? You know that person's feelings are gonna be so hurt. Diamond.
No, don't do me. Okay, listen, but
and it's also there's certain people who are very sensitive. They cannot take something like that. There are people who are literally alone, and that's why they're leeching onto you. And then you block them, and now maybe it's the guilt of how they might harm themselves because oh shit, this person doesn't want to be my friend, or this person doesn't like me. And I think that's where my mom is sort of with this person. And it could be dangerous when you're dealing with a toxic person like that who maybe even suicidal. How do you deal with someone who's suicidal? You care about the person, but you can't be with them.
Get them suicidal hotline.
Right. See, at that point, then it's becoming, like you said, intrusive onto your life. And it's not going to work. So you need to help that person move on.
Yeah. You have to get them the proper help because you're not the proper help.
Right.
You're not. You can't be available to that person the way they need you to. They don't even know the help that they need. So you got to get them the help that they need and then leave that in God's hands.
And then delete and block.
Delete and block.
Right. In a situation like that. But any other time you need to openly communicate and be honest.
Let me tell you something, man. I'm in a meeting right now.
You sure are. You sure are.
The moral of the story is if you're in a toxic relationship, delete and block.
Listen, Tatiana and people on the internet, on the Obama internet, let me tell you something. I am the queen of delete and block. Y'all think that I'm this sensitive being and I'm really not. I could be a savage. So more of the story, like you said, just communicate your feelings openly, guys.
Is that what I said?
Yeah, that's what I said.
I'm going to learn how to be a better communicator. I still don't feel this urge to be in a relationship. So I don't know how well I'm going to do with my new journey of trying to be a better communicator. But
you did say that after like the pandemic and things, you're going to try. So I think
did. I think because in that moment, I guess I felt like, okay, maybe I do want something. But I always have those moments and then they pass. They're so fleeting.
The same way. I have those moments. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that no more. I'm good.
Yeah. You see this room is all I need. Just me, myself, and I, my books, my bed. And I don't. And then Diamond. I think Diamond, Diamond is my most committed relationship.
But I think it's very healthy. It doesn't always have to be sexual where you laid up with somebody.
Sure.
Exactly.
I think that's very healthy. Because now you have those correct boundaries you want.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do cross them from time to time. But go ahead.
And I try to but I would say that maybe that's one of the reasons too why I don't feel so eager to find that relationship, because that romantic relationship, because Diamond and I have everything except the sex. And so when I need the sex, I go out there and I get it. And then that's it. I'm good.
Yeah.
You both are heartless, but
But Tatiana, thank you for joining us because
I had such a great time. You guys are awesome. I had a really good time.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate you. And we have to do that. I think Tati and I have been saying since last year that we were going to link up.
I'm back in New York, and I got a car now. So what's up?
Ooh, girl, yes.
I'm out here.
You better pick me up with them tickets, new tags. Shit.
Got you. I got you. Let me know. Honestly, whenever you're available, just let me know. We can go out. I'm down.
Yeah, I will. But
so tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, I am on Instagram, your girl, Tati Does It Better _ and on Facebook, Tatiana Jonas, and on Twitter, Tati Does It Better _ and in the 90s.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. I'm gonna steal that.
And don't forget to check out her new podcast,
yes,
Femme Power.
Listen to my podcast, Femme Power. We're on IG, Femme Power Podcast. We don't have any episodes yet. I'm actually thinking about doing like miniseries. That's why I haven't dropped anything yet, or we haven't dropped anything yet. Just kind of switching up the game. But yeah, I mean, also on my personal IG page, Tati Does It Better _ I got a couple funny videos up there you might like. So check them out. Like, share.
Subscribe to my channel.
Don't forget to hit that notification button.
Trying to be famous, y'all.
All right. Well, everybody, have a good night. Have fun.
Bye.